Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darien Southerland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it. 800-980-1761. 800-980-1761. 800-980-1761. That's 800-980-1761.
And welcome back to SGMP. Merry Christmas. Darien Southerland here with my co-host as usual up there in Sevierville, Tennessee, Arthur Rice. Arthur, you fighting some snow this week. Are y'all getting snow? I know my son over in North Carolina on the other side of the mountain from you getting some snow. You guys getting some snow this weekend?
Well, North Carolina took it all pretty much. They didn't give us hardly any. We got just a little bit here last night, but we haven't got much at all. But that's okay.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, I like snow. If it's
I don't like snow at all.
If it's going to be cold, it might as well snow.
Dude, it is down here in Atlanta. It has been raining all weekend long. Cold, rainy, nasty, 30 degrees. And meanwhile, in Naples, Florida, it's 83 and sunny. And anyway, and we're doing a podcast. But anyway, we're warm. We could be outside. Hey, Arthur, today we got a good friend of yours coming on with us, and he's known as the Swan. He was in pastoral ministry for around 23 years. He's known as America's Minister of Encouragement, speaks to over 100 faith-based groups and corporate groups throughout the year. Dennis Swanberg, and he's a buddy of yours, is he not, Arthur?
He is. We've known Dennis for several years, just been a great friend, and just super guy.
All righty. Tell the folks how we got Dennis. You were at a concert with him recently, were you not?
We were. We were actually at Greater Vision's Homecoming Praise Fest, and we were with Dennis that night, and he just released this book, and we were kind of talking, and I was kind of telling him about our podcast, and his book, No More Secrets, just kind of it hit just exactly kind of where we were going. And so we talked a little bit, and Dennis explained this book about, how he came to write it and that sort of thing. And so I asked him if he would like to be on the program, and he was just gracious enough to be on here with us. And I'm excited about it. I really am.
Boom. So let's go ahead and pull him up. He's up in Nashville, Tennessee, I believe. Am I correct, Dennis? The Swan, is that where you're located today? I don't know.
I was in Monroe, Louisiana, West Monroe for 27 years, and because my last pastor was First Baptist West Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay.
And I left there in 95, but, you got to live and die somewhere, so we basically stayed there for, a bunch of years, and then we just moved back to Granbury, Texas. I'm from Austin, my wife's from Fort Worth, but our youngest son, Dusty, and his wife had our first grandson, and so we felt led to move to Granbury because we'll be 35 minutes from them because they live in South Fort Worth. So, blood's thicker than water. And when you're on the road all the time, when I come home, I want to have a chance to be with that grandson and, have a little impact, So we're in Granbury, Texas, but we keep traveling. And, till the day I die, my financial guy told me that I could retire at 89, and if Lori quit buying shoes, 86. So I sort of got excited.
Well, Dennis, you mentioned a word us folks in the Christian community are used to that I like to make fun of. You said being led. you wasn't really led. They had that grandbaby, and Laurie said, "I'm going, so you either come with me or you can stay here in Louisiana." Is that really how it worked?
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the definitions of led. It's further down the list, you know, on the next page of Webster's. But yeah, we're happy to be here. We're settled in, and so that's good. And we've got everything all set up. So we're still trucking and still a-going.
Good stuff. Tell the folks, we're going to get into your book in just a second, but tell the folks about Dennis Swanberg and your background and your history for the folks that hadn't been fortunate enough to see you, hear you, or meet you, and how you came to be known as America's Minister of Encouragement.
Well, when I got saved back in March 15th, 1971 during the Jesus movement down in Austin, Texas. And I was a good Methodist and got saved, in the midst of that Jesus movement. And but then I was going to go to Baylor to play a little baseball, and the Baptists got a hold of me. And next thing I knew, I was underneath the water, and they wouldn't let me up till I said tithe. And you know how that goes. And then I finished Baylor, and I ended up, I felt like the Lord wanted me to, be involved in the ministry. Well, at that time, you in my brain, I thought you're either a preacher, a music man, education man, youth man, or a missionary. I didn't think about being just a Christian speaker, entertainer, humorist, motivator, inspirational kind of guy. I didn't think that was on the list. And so I majored in Greek and religion and went to Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth and got my master's, my doctorate, and pastored for those 23 years. And in the midst of it all, because I did impersonations and was funny, I would do youth camps, and I would do Valentine banquets and chambers and deacons banquets. And it got to the point to where in 95, I had to do one or the other because, church folks, they're going, well, he's gone all the time and he speaks and he gets paid. Well, duh. So, well, if I die, I doubt he'll be there to do the funeral because he's gone all the time. Well, so, that just gets, I might have been just gone on my day off or a day of revival, but the perception was, so I finally said, you know what? I've always wondered if I could do what, Grady Nutt did, if I could do what Jerry Clowers did. I'd always been in my mind. Yeah. And finally, in 95, I asked my wife, Laurie, I said, do you think I can do it? She said, I think you can do it. Well, so we resigned and took a step of faith. I was 41 years old. And I remember way back then, it's sort of funny, I thought, I'd rather go for it. And because I don't want to be 65 one day and then wonder if I could have done it. Well, I stepped out and now I'm 65, and I guess I've sort of done it, but I ain't done yet. I got to keep going. But, so those, and, like Coach Swindoll says, if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, he didn't get there by himself. Right. The day after I resigned, the next morning, Dr. James Dobson played 20 minutes of one of my cassette tapes, my only cassette tape. Yeah. And it just, 95, Dr. Dobson was pretty big, and it just, woo. And then a month later, he played the other 20 minutes of it. And then 6 months later, he and Miss Shirley came to hear me speak in Sarasota Baptist Church in Florida. And, I didn't know they were coming. I'm up there to preach, and in the back door comes Jim and Shirley Dobson. I went, Lord have mercy. I said, Lord, help me do good. He says, Swan, I can take your best stuff and make it fall on deaf ears, or I can take your shallow stuff and make them think it's something. I said, take the shallow stuff and make them think it's something. Well, afterwards they came up and hugged me, and Dr. Dobson says, Swanee, I want everything you got. And I hated to tell him that cassette tape was the only thing I had. But I spoke in the Greek future tense, and I said, I'll give you my other materials in the near future, which means I had to go home and create something. Be like Arthur having to go back there, and record something that afternoon. Oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, and then he called me the next week. You know, sometimes people say something like they're going to use you or want you, but they never call back. Well, he called back that week, and man, has he been good to me. And then after that, like Arthur and I, we'd get to know each other way back. It'd be on a cruise,
right,
or doing something with, Charles Stanley or John Hagee. Somebody give me praise and glory. Or I do stuff for David Jeremiah. All these guys have, literally opened up doors for me. And then, I remember when I went down, in 95, let's see, I guess it'd been like the fall of 95. I went to Louisville, walked around and saw the National Quartet Convention, and old Bill Taylor was taking me around there, showing me off. And I looked down there, and there was old Glenn Yonts my brain just went dead. Comedian
Glenn Payne and George Yonts.
Well, yeah, it was George Yonts and another comedian, which right now my brain just, I guess it's too early in the morning, needed that second cup of coffee. They were the host of that day or that morning or something.
Yeah.
And I saw Ken Davis, and so he and Ken Davis were mixing up. I remember I was standing at the top of the deal, looking down, and I wondered, man, I wonder if I could ever do anything here for the National Quartet Convention, like that. Man, this is, all these people, I don't know a soul, but they're my people, they're my kind of folks, my kind of music. And, well, one thing would lead to another, and all of a sudden the door opened, and little bit by little bit, and the Kingdom Heirs were good to me, reached out to me, had them on my, then someone came up to me, wanted me to do a TV show, and I called it Swan's Place, and so it was, Kingdom Heirs came and sang on it. I mean, it was just one thing led to another, and so here, all these years later, I'm still going and still doing, and it's still an adventure to me. There's more places to go, places to revisit, to encourage people now that his day is drawing near, and that's what I took as my church when I left in 95. They had a big commissioning service to commission me into the ministry of encouragement, and it was a pretty awesome service, and they saw that as my gift of mercy, my gift of humor, mercy with humor, to encourage people, and so that's what I've tried to do. And in the midst of all that, you can feel like, well, I want to help people that are down and out and hurting and this and that. Well, the reality is we're all hurting. The reality is we get a little older, we all make mistakes. The reality is that we all need do-overs. The reality really comes to life, though, when it's in your own family, and, if it's your kids, if it's your wife, if it's you, if it's your mom or dad or your brother or sister, and we all need that kind of grace.
Dennis,
but the tendency is, as long as your sin is bigger than mine, I'm okay. I'm good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to stop you right there. Let us pay some bills and get people to come back. We're going to come right back. I'm going to get you to talk about your new book, continue with this conversation.
Hey, cousins, this is your pal, Country Radio Hall of Fame DJ Moby, and you're listening to my buddy Darien Southerland on SGNP. Yeah, baby.
Pat Boone here for the folks at Swiss America. Rock-solid foundations are vital in life, in business, and in finance, because in the end, only what we've built on a firm foundation will withstand the storms of life. Today, the economic storms are raging and the foundations of everything are being tested. The world economy has never looked shakier, and gold, the world's oldest and most trusted form of money, is also grabbing headlines. Now is the time to put your future on a rock-solid foundation. Swiss America will help you create an indestructible asset today. Discover the timeless truth about gold and silver by calling Swiss America or visiting online at SwissAmerica.com.
Call 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199, 800-614-7199.
Hi, this is Claranda, and you're listening to SGNP.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darien Southerland here with Arthur Rice, our special guest today, Dennis Swanberg, the Swan, the Minister of Encouragement. And by the way, folks, if you hadn't checked out SGNP on Facebook, on Instagram, please do that. You can find us on Facebook at Southern Gospel News Podcast. On Instagram, you can find us there. I don't know the call letters right now. My assistant set that up, and we got tons of members, and I don't know, but you can find us on Instagram if you know what it is. Twitter is SGNP Podcast. And remember, you can always call our comment line and leave your comment. And if you want to say something bad, heck, say something bad. We'll put you on the air. 615-763-3862, or you could say something good. Ain't that right, Arthur?
Amen.
615-763-3862. I was so rude, and I interrupted him just a second ago when he was rolling, talking about his commissioning service and all that at his church, Dennis Swanberg. Sorry about that, Dennis, but I had to get that break in there, my friend. You know how that is. You got to pay the bills somehow.
You better believe it. Well, you know, they commissioned me, and off I went, and, you know, life was good. My boys were young. We flourished. We did well, and you know, everybody wants to have the perfect family or thinks they have the perfect family, or, you know, that my boys are good, my family's good. Boy, I love that family over there. Their kids are wild. They must be doing something wrong. You know, we almost go back to that mentality of, well, they must have done some sin because their kids are bad, you know, or we just have that self-righteous kind of, you know, even if we think we're not being self-righteous, but we are self-righteous until all of a sudden it comes home and we hurt, or our loved one really hurts. And I think what I've learned as I've gotten older is that I better grow in grace or I'm to be pitied, because everybody needs it, and our family needed it. And so, you know, some things started unraveling, you know, like when my boys would have their bumps in the road, when they had issues, you know, when everybody has an addiction of some sort to some level. It's a matter of level. You know, you go into a no man's land and you can get hooked on Bluebell ice cream, or you can get hooked on alcohol, or this or that, or sex, or lust, or, I mean, you know, pick your category, and all of a sudden it can get to you, and then all of a sudden there's consequences, and some sins have bigger consequences than others. And when my son, you know, in the book, No More Secrets, you know, got a DUI down in Texas and is back there in 2008, and, you know, jail. And I went down there to get him, and I decided to leave him. I left him. I went in there, paid his bail, walked outside, and God said, if you love him, leave him. And he spoke to my old heart. I mean, I've never heard God speak out loud except through my wife, Lori, whenever she tells me something. But I went back in, and I said, y'all just keep him, and I don't want him. And I went back out, and my oldest son, Chad, was with me, and we'd driven from Monroe, Louisiana, all the way down there to Georgetown, Texas, through the night. And I said, let's go. He said, well, where's Dusty? I said, well, if, you know, God told me if I loved him, I needed to leave him, so I'm leaving him. So let's go back home. And as we were driving back home, my phone rings, and Laurie says, do you have Dusty? Do you have Dusty? And I said, baby, I left him. God said if I love him, I need to leave him, so I'll leave him. I left him, and she said, okay. And that's one of the few times that, you know, a woman will submit to you sometimes, especially on that big one like that. So if it goes south, it was you, buddy, that left him. So I got home, and, you know, Laurie and I just looked at each other. You know, we thought, man, what have we done wrong? Where have we gone wrong? What did we do wrong? Was I gone too much? I was on the road too much, traveling, blah, blah, blah. You know, you always want to find something. You know, what I've realized over these years is I tell couples, you know, Adam and Eve had a perfect father, and they had a perfect world, but they had a mind of their own. And our kids do too. and we do too. And even their two sons, one killed the other one. How do you think God felt? I mean, was there someone around to say, God, you ain't doing too hot? But I'll tell you this, God knows how you feel and how I feel. Because those he loved, yeah, he had to be tough, with Adam and Eve's sin, they had to, work became toil, birthing was painful, they had to leave the garden, but it was God the Father who made them some clothes because he was going to cover the ones he loved. And he covered them, not somebody else. He covered them. And but if we don't reveal our secrets, we're in trouble. Shonda was sweet to give me a nice, endorsement. She said, "Do you have any secrets? It's time to look at secrets and their power to either hinder or heal. We have secrets because we like to live behind a mask, a facade, or a veneer. It is a great mercy that God does not leave us in our secrets. He will not let us hide. His grace finds us, his mercy forgives us, his love covers us." Well, that was what I shared, but this is what she said. Excuse me, my eyes this morning are a little bad. She said, "I have said often, what we drag out of the dark into the light has no more power over us. Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But pouring the truth out into the open is one of the hardest things to do in life." And it is. But when you reveal that secret to the Lord and a significant someone, a confidential somebody, it changes things. You're relieved. I tell people you can hold a beach ball underneath the water a long time, but eventually it's going to pop up and hit you in the face. But when you let the air out of it, when you let the air out of it, it changes everything.
It has no power.
It has power. And, I love that old song. It is no secret what God can do. What he's done for others, he'll do for you. And old Stuart Hambler, man, that song was so true.
Yeah. Dennis, you said you left Dustin because you said God told you to. What do you, in a lot of parents love their kids, and I've seen this time and time again, and I'm different from you. I'll just be honest with you. I got mine out, okay? And I probably should have done what you did now looking back, okay? But what do you feel you had done to prepare yourself to make that decision, or do you feel it was instant preparedness that God gave you right then and there?
Well, one thing that God did was, as I was getting ready to go in there, I had a friend call me that had found out from another close buddy. I have some close buddies. That's important for me to have friends.
Yeah.
You got to have some go-to guys that can keep their mouth shut. And so one of my go-to guys in the midst of that turmoil called that morning as I was arriving there in the Austin area. And he said, "Swan, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just went in there to pay Dusty's bail to get him out." He said, "Well, why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, get him out." He said, "Listen, you just paid for 4 years of college. Just leave him." I said, "Well, I appreciate your thoughts there." He said, "All right, man." Hung up, and then so I just stood there a while, and I said, "God, what do you want me to do?" And his spirit bore witness with my spirit. Leave him. So see, on the one hand, I had a phone call.
Yeah.
But I still had to make sure that phone call was something I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And so, I left him there. But when God spoke to my heart to go get him, I went and got him 9 days later. And then I put him on a plane and then sent him to California. On the one hand, I wanted him to be as far away from me as possible. I wanted him to God, get him way out there where it's just you and him. And about 3-4 days later, Dustin finally said, I am helpless. And that began to change in his life. And it's a journey. We don't go for, it's not perfection, it's progress. I think we set ourselves up. People need to understand that addicts are 80% are going to have a relapse. If you're on a diet, you're going to do well, and all of a sudden then you're going to eat that Little Debbie Swiss roll cake. You're going to relapse, and then you go, well, what the heck? I ate the Little Debbie, so put the Bluebell with the Little Debbie. That's really good. Mm-hmm. And then I'll start back on Monday. Well, people relapse. It's about progress. It's about developing muscles, moral muscles, mental muscles, and that takes a process. And Dusty, after that, he's had his relapses, but he's gotten stronger and stronger and doing well. He's married, got a baby. We're just real proud of him. Same with my oldest son. He's had his. Well, we all have them. And but when I was down there at that moment, that was the worst day of my life. It was the worst day of my life. But I realized that I loved him more than I'd ever loved him before. Now, is that crazy?
No.
But how much if an earthly father loves his son that much, how much more so our heavenly Father? I'm telling you, God is crazy about his kids, the ones that are having troubles, the ones that have had addictions, the ones that have had addictions that have messed with their mind and maybe make them incapable of really being a 45-year-old or 60-year-old mindset one day. They're going to always be more of a 29-year-old. But he loves them and he's crazy about them. And so I learned that day. And I learned, then with my other son and his issues and my wife's family, my family, it's all in the book. It's a very, it's all in there. A lot of stuff to cover. But here's the deal. Even today, where I live today, I know I could get a phone call today. I could get a phone call tonight. I've had them before. Life goes on. Well, I have to make sure that I realize that, I'm not above it either. I have my issues. Y'all have your issues. We all know it. And here's a quick story. I don't know if it's quick, but in 2012, Dustin came home to Monroe, and he asked me to go to an AA meeting. Well, I'd never asked him to go. If I could go, but he said, you want to go, Dad? Saturday morning, it's a good one over here by the college. So I said, yeah. So I went with him. Well, I'd pastored there at First Baptist, West Monroe, till 95. Well, this was 2012, but we lived there and still, a lot of people, know everybody.
Yeah.
We go in there, and I got my cup of coffee, and there's some of my Baptists in there. I'm waving them, hey, how you doing? Lifting up my cup of coffee, and them, hey. See a guy that sold me my truck, and my first thought was this. I'm telling you, I said, Lord, I don't know how this works, but I hope they'll come by and let me introduce myself so I can let them know I'm okay and I'm with my son. I'm with old Dusty here. He's the one that's got the problem. I'm just his guest. And God said, Swan, you self-righteous preacher, drink your coffee.
Yeah. And
I said, well, Lord, I don't know. I'm America's minister of encouragement. I got a testimony. I got to be careful. He said, it's AA. It's anonymous. I said, well, I know it's anonymous, but there's Baptists in here, and Baptists will tell somebody that they saw the Swan. And he said, drink your coffee, eat your donut, and sit there and listen. And God revealed to me even more then, who do you think you are? You're no different than your son, and you know it. Mm-hmm. And that's what upsets me the most, is you know it.
Yeah.
But you want to think that you're better. You're not better. We're all in this together. And that's, as Lord took me through those times, I have, I can look back, I've been so self-righteous about so many things, but boy, when you see your own sin in your life, and I came to this realization, your willingness to tell your secret to someone may be redemptive, for some or many more. And Lori, my wife, she is a quiet woman. My wife is not going to tell anyone anything. But my wife, she said, no more secrets. You know, her family's Mississippi, where we all say everything's fine and wonderful. Well, there's a Hebrew word for that, bakar, a whole bunch of bull.
Yeah.
And Dennis, Lori said no more secrets. So anyhow, that's where it all went.
You said in talking about that no more secrets, perfect segue into this question here. You said life goes on. You're America's minister of encouragement. Knowing what your son or sons were going through, how did you personally keep that spirit of encouragement up, knowing what they were going through? And then night after night, you had to go talk to James Dobson. You had to go speak at with Chuck Swindoll. You had to go to Dr. Stanley's church. And no doubt 15 minutes before you jumped up on stage, old Satan would remind you, hey, you ain't that guy. Your sons are alcoholics, but yet you're up here encouraging all these strangers that you'll never meet, and they're buying your product. They don't want to hear you. Dennis, how did you overcome that? Because I know, just being a Christian, I know you fought that battle more than likely, or at least I'm assuming you did.
Yeah, I tell you, well, Dusty's first DUI when he was in college, you know, they called me at 2:30 in the morning. His buddy did. I was in Indianapolis, and you know, it just shattered me. You know, I mean, it took out a tree, signed 3 cars, you know, on the campus, and good night. Then I had to fly to Florida, and I just told the pastor and the staff, and they prayed over me, and I got up there and I did my thing. And you know, you say, well, how do you do it? Well, you know, I said, Lord, help me to live rightly. Help me to do what I need to do. You know, I have in the book that sometimes, you know, we all have a persona, and we have to have a persona. If we didn't have a persona, if we knew what was going on in everybody's life, it would be Jerry Springer on steroids.
Yeah.
Like when I go to have surgery, I don't want my surgeon to tell me, hey, last night my wife and I had a big fight. She's leaving. She's getting the condo at Gulf Shores, Alabama, this and that. And, you know, we're fighting over the, you know, I don't want to know that. I want, if he tells me that, I want to say, let's wait and have the surgery, you know, next week. But he has a persona, and he does the surgery. Tell me that, you know, everybody has to go to work. If we didn't have that persona, it would be chaos in the workplace. So you have to have a persona. It's okay to have a persona, but beneath that persona, I've got to do something about it. And that's where I said, Lord, you know, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to try to help these people do what I know that's right to do. And meanwhile, I know you're with Dustin. I know that you're with my wife, who's brokenhearted. You know, Lord, help me. I'm brokenhearted. And you do what you have to do. I had someone just the other day come up to me and said, I was in that church in Florida where that was at Dusty's first night in jail, because I just told him, you know, at the end, I just said, just pray for me. Now, I'm a very open person. Not everybody's going to be that open, but I made it through. And I guess I made it through because I told that pastor, I told that staff beforehand. I said, this is what's happened. Pray for me. And I made it through. And then there'd be times I'd be in California speaking for Wycliffe, you know, and like you said, In Touch and Turning Point, fundraisers and things. And I knew that Dusty's just, you know, a couple of miles down the road in a rehab place, you know. I don't know how I did it. You know, I put one foot in front of the other and said, Lord, I need your help. And I didn't have the emotion, but I had his strength that you keep on keeping on, because the best thing that I can show Dusty or show Chad or show my wife or my friends is that in the midst of crud, you can keep going forward by the grace of God, not by anything good in you, but he holds it.
It's his grace.
I guess that's how I did it. But in the meantime, let me say this, guys, and everybody listening, when your loved ones are going through stuff and it's tough, and you better have some go-to people. Don't try to carry it all yourself. You tell the Lord and a significant somebody that can keep their mouth shut, someone that is not there to judge you, but a friend that's there to encourage you, to say, hey, I understand, man, I understand. I'm with you. A confidant. Proverbs and Psalms says love covers a matter. And while they're covering you, so you can press on and keep going, because if not, guys, I'm going to tell you, we become a candidate to do what our loved ones have done, trying to find peace, I just want to feel good for one night. I'm on the road. I just want to have one afternoon where I just feel peace. So do I need to have a drink? Do I need to do this? Do I need to go find a wild time? Do I need to go to a honky-tonk? Do I need to watch this on TV? Do I need to, we have to be careful, because we would like to feel good again. We would like to have peace, if it's just for an hour, where we escape. So we have to be careful as the loved one. And you know what? We find ourselves failing in that area. And so we got to encourage one another. We got to help each other. And when you have it out there, it's better off. Now, here's the deal. I've written the book, but here's the truth is, there's more secrets today. There's more secrets tomorrow and the next day.
No doubt.
And so I have to reread this book at least every 3 months, just to help me practice what I preach, because there's always every day carries a new batch of secrets. Mm-hmm.
Dennis, you've pastored a church. Last question. You've pastored a church of hurting people that put a mask on. You talk to people every week, every month, every year that are hurting, that have a mask on. You've lived the life of having to wear that mask and smile on stage when your sons were going through what they were doing. What would you say in closing to people to get them to remove that mask and just be real? What would you say to them? Because one thing I will say about society today, if the millennials hadn't taught us Gen Xers anything else, it's to be real. And what would you say to the folks out there, just to get them to say it's not all perfect? Just because I wear the nicest clothes from Macy's doesn't mean things are perfect, or we drive the nicest cars. We hurt too. What would you say to folks to get them to remove that mask?
I would tell them, listen, it's only natural that you hide things. David would hide things. He was the king. He had a great persona. He was the greatest king perhaps ever. That was his persona, but he had some secrets, and his secrets would be his undoing. And yet when he finally found that he was able to, say, create within me a clean heart, renew a right spirit within me, he was able to press onward, even though he would say, my sins are ever before me. He knows I wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect, but I can't carry on as though I am perfect, and because I'm not, and I have to be open to at least a certain degree. There's not a lot of transparency in the pulpits, in my opinion, and yet I understand, because I was a pastor so long. You have to be careful what you share as a pastor. There's always a wolf in sheep's clothing that wants to use it against you. But I also know that if we're going to help people that are bleeding, we have to be willing to bleed ourselves. Now we have to control that hemorrhage. But if we don't bleed a little, we're not going to help someone else. But it's amazing that when in life, if I, at the right time, someone comes to me and says, hey, Swan, pray for my family, my son, there's a girl pregnant and everything or whatever. And I can say, hey, listen, I understand. My boys have had their deals. My family, I'm there for him instead of me thinking I'm better than him or, man, what'd you do wrong? Man, you were gone too. All of a sudden we bond and we're close. We're close to this day. Whereas back when I was younger, sometimes we preachers would play games. Hey, how you doing? We're not going to tell nobody nothing. Yeah. We don't, but I want to tell people, you share it with significant somebody and be open to helping people. And don't be so judgmental. And yes, we want people to live righteously. And yes, we want people to be strong on the road. And we want them to have progress. They're not going to have perfection until we see Jesus, but we want to make progress and build on progress. And that attitude is more welcoming. We were out with a couple last night that just opened up their heart to us because they know they can tell us, and they felt better. You know how you get a text after you had the meal,
yeah,
and that the text known, and they says, we appreciate you so much. Well, because we became vulnerable. We didn't get texts like that way back when we were vulnerable. We got, that was a good message.
Yeah.
Or they'd say that's a great song, but when I become vulnerable, when I bleed, the room changes. You know how it is, Arthur, when you're when you're doing a concert or I'm speaking and all of a sudden I share about my life, all of a sudden the room changes.
Mm-hmm.
The room changes. Now things are happening, and people come up and they identify with you, and you're able to help them. And all of a sudden, then that's when they love that song, and they want you to sing that song again because they know what it meant to you in your tough times.
Yeah,
no doubt.
So I think we just, sometimes we have to grow up and get older to realize not to be so self-righteous. And but the millennials, you're right. They'll tell the whole world.
Yeah.
They'll tell you and everybody. There's a balance. There is a balance.
No doubt.
And we don't cast our pearls before swine.
That's
we
right.
Don't, we don't do that. We have to use wisdom, and we have to have insight, and we have to be careful who we talk to and who we share with. You've got to study friends who can keep the right kind of secret that covers in that regard. So,
and we pray. I think the Lord will lead us.
Yeah, and that's just what I want for folks to know. Let's be real. Let's be genuine. We're in this together. Let's encourage each other. People are going to fail. I was listening to the radio just the other day. College, hiring a coach that had bumps in the road, and everybody's jumping all over them. I thought, well, you know what? I thought that's what we're supposed to do, is restore people. And if we're going to preach restoration, that someone can be restored, well, then let them be restored and do what they were doing before.
And
not
Dennis,
places. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? If not, quit preaching restoration.
Yeah. And let's pray for that college, and let's pray for that coach, because let me tell you what, Liberty University and Hugh Freeze is going to win some ball games because of that restoration and that story. So
and
no doubt.
What's the matter with that? And and so there's some folks that could look at me or someone else and go, well, he's damaged goods, or his family's not so perfect, or we don't. Well, you know what? Okay, well, that's fine. And you know what? I'm fine with that. But I just want people to know that. I'm not perfect. Dennis Swanberg's a sinner, but I'm saved by grace, and he's doing a work. He's still, what's that old chorus we used to sing years ago? He's still working on me.
Yep.
To make me what he wants me to be.
Dennis,
blah, blah, blah. But,
one more thing before we go. Tell us the name of your book again, where they can find it online, how they can order the book.
Okay.
And then you've got to do a few of your imitations real quick. And Arthur said, God rest his soul, you got to do Billy Graham before we get off here.
Yeah. Well, it's No More Secrets, and you can find it on my website, Dennis Swanberg, SWANBERG. That's a mouthful. DennisSwanberg.com, and it's also on Amazon. So, and my other books and stuff are on DennisSwanberg.com. But, check it out. I'm telling you, it's a good book. It's a bold book. It's a good book for a small group. Everyone will relate, I guarantee you. And if you got friends that are just, that it's just killing them, what's inside of them, give them the book. And if you be like a psychiatrist, sort of look at them and go, hey, I've read this book. I don't know what I think about it. Would you read it and tell me what you think? Do a little reverse psychology to get them to read the book.
Yeah.
Or to get your son to read it or your daughter to read it, because the principles are true in this book. And it took 3 years to write it, and it was painful writing it. But my wife said, "You're writing it," and she stood there in the family room one day and said, "I'm tired of it. No more secrets. I'm tired of it." And so that's what we called it, No More Secrets. So anyhow, that's how you find it, DennisSwanberg.com. And as Billy Graham said, "Now I just want to say this is the voice of Billy when he was older, and up in heaven now we know the book. We can read it without holding it. I can't explain it. Ronnie Reagan, well, yes. May I just say this, that yes, no, maybe. We all have secrets. Yes. Bill Clinton down to earth. Hey, let me just say this, okay? Yeah, there are secrets. Oh my gosh. Pray for Hillary, okay? But do not email her at this time, okay? Cool. Duke up in heaven. Oh, let me tell you something.
Oh,
Darren, I'm proud of you. And Arthur, you sit tall and silently. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm proud of you.
Boy, I tell you what, strong stuff from Dennis Swanberg today, Arthur.
Yep. I knew it would be. I read the book and I thought, boy, that's just perfect for kind of what we're going through. And Dennis is such a gentleman to be real, and that's what we need. The biggest fallacy when we become Christians, I think the devil tells us, that we're supposed to be perfect, but it's in our nature not to be. And it's with the help of the Lord, and that's it. The only way that we can get through. Sure, we're going to make mistakes, and we keep making mistakes. We're going to keep making mistakes until we're through with this whole world. And we just have to deal with that, and the Lord will help us with that. And I really appreciate what Dennis said.
The neatest thing I think for us today, and I didn't think about this until after he was off the air, is usually when you and I do an interview with someone, we have to ask a lot of questions, okay?
Yeah.
Today, we didn't have to ask many questions. I think I wrote down two the whole time he was talking, because he was so transparent in telling us the answers before we ever asked the questions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of folks out there hurting this year, and we didn't do this just so you would buy his book. Of course, I hope you do, if it'll help you and you can share it with somebody. But we do these shows like this, Arthur, to help people, because so many times us as Christians are wearing masks and we're all hurting. But guess what? Everybody around us is hurting, and it's okay. We're all in the same boat. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
So anyway, my friend, once again, if you haven't listened to us before and this is the first time, make sure you go to wherever you get your podcast, subscribe. You'll get me and Arthur every single week talking about Southern Gospel News Podcast. You'll get news and information you won't find anywhere else in a magazine or on the radio, like interviews like this with Dennis Swanberg. You can look to our website, www.southerngospelnews.podcast.com, southerngospelnewspodcast.com. Hear one of our 50 shows. Anybody from our buddy Grant Gibson with Karen Peck in New River, our Karen Peck, our Peg McCamey, our Taranda Green Bean, our Jason Crabb, our Russ Taff, our Maurice Templeton, our any number of shows, Arthur Rice. I mean, there's just a ton of good stuff out there. Don't you agree, Arthur?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
A lot of fun stuff and a lot of stuff. You can go to our Facebook page. We're always giving stuff away. We're going to give away a couple of Dennis's books coming up on Facebook real soon. Or you can give us a call, 615-763-2733. 3862. 615-763-3862. Arthur, we got to get out of here. We're a little over time. Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Hope the season's going right. And
great.
One more question for you before we get out of here, all righty?
Yeah.
What's wrong with living right anyway?
Hey, not a thing.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you right here on SGNP.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, southerngospelnewspodcast.com. To advertise your products, services, concert event, or new project on SGNP and reach a 100% guaranteed number of people in your area, call Tim Newton at 770-874-3200 or email him today, tnewton@bgadgroup.com. Let us geo-target our ads for you, something radio nor magazine can do.
Hey, this is Darien Southerland. Before I close, I want to thank our affiliates out there. WLJA in North Georgia, KWFC in Springdale, Arkansas. The new one, The Andrew Burnett Show, heard all across the country, and online, TheLightAtlanta.com, playing Southern gospel music online. We're adding affiliates every day. We're partnering with Ken and the folks over there at Gospel Music TV real soon. So we look forward to that partnership. If your gospel music entity would love to partner with SGMP, get a hold of us. It's real simple. Folks, here's the deal. We've reached out to literally every form of media in gospel music. If we've missed you, I'm sorry. But we've had great partnerships with folks like Paul Heil and others. If you haven't heard someone on the air, it's not because we hadn't reached out. We hope everyone is successful, no matter if they're a radio station, a magazine, a website, a group, whomever it is. God bless you, and let's make gospel music better than it was today, tomorrow. Easy enough?
Ever wonder how the credit card companies make their money? Well, think about this. If you owe $25,000 on 5 different credit cards and you make your minimum payments every month, here's what it's going to cost you. Are you sitting down? You'll shell out over $13,000 in additional interest, and it's going to take over 13 years to pay off your original $25,000 balance. That's how they make money. Now it's your turn to fight back by calling the Debt Solutions Network. We'll work on your behalf to reduce your debt. We specialize in credit cards, retail store cards, and medical bills. We promise we can and will reduce your debt. Call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207. 877-490-1207.